Welcome to the Church Office podcast. If you're joining us on the video, thank you for being here. We've got our favourite man back. Gaz is here.
You're too kind.
Love it. The listeners just love you, mate. So every time there's a podcast with Gaz, they want you back. The ratings go higher.
Come on, thank you.
A real privilege to have his wife, Lois, today join us.
Thank you.
And I think Lois is really like the secret weapon behind the church. She's the one who does... Yeah, she makes you look good, Gaz. Is that
100%, mate.
I give you the answers, right?
She gives me the answers, gives me the brains, and often I'm just the face of things. I don't know why I'm the face, because I'm definitely not the beauty in this couple either, so I don't know what I bring to the party.
Well, you bring loads. It's good. And so it's a real first to have a couple. And I was just saying to Gaz and Lois, it's a first because we've actually got a sponsor, which is amazing, who has sponsored the podcast, and they're called Catering Source. And they are a Christian catering company that provide all sorts of food for churches, for conferences, buffets, parties, just a whole range of things. Their quality of their stuff is brilliant, and so a little promo for them, and a big thank you to first sponsors. So
amazing.
If anyone else is listening, fancy sponsoring a podcast, get in contact.
Awesome.
We'd love it. So
perfect one. We love food, so it's perfect. Perfect one.
Great, love it. It's absolutely great. So today I thought we'd start off with a little bit of a quiz to kind of get to know you both and kind of find out your strengths and weaknesses as it comes.
Come on.
All right. So a bit of fun. Okay, so who is the best organised?
Lois.
Lois, all over it. Who's the best singer?
Lois. I'm not liking where this is going, mate.
I also have self-assurance quite high in my strength.
Okay, who is always late?
Lois.
I wouldn't say always late, but
out of the two of us, you'd be very late compared to me.
Late.
Yeah, kind of.
My wife's always late. Definitely.
I like
to be
good.
Early.
Yeah.
On time is early. So
exactly.
Love it. Who's the most creative?
Lois,
definitely. Love that. Who has the best telephone manner?
Me.
Yeah.
He used to work in a call centre, mate.
Oh, really?
118.
Oh, really? With the little vest.
No.
That wasn't the uniform, but
the little shorts.
One of my first jobs was for 118, and then when I came back from Australia, I went to work for. Before I went to Australia, I went to work for 118-247.
Oh, really?
Yellow Pages.
24/7.
That's crazy. Okay, so you've got the best phone. Who's the most forgetful? You're both good at this.
We both write lists.
Yeah, we're a list.
Are you saying
if I say you and you say me, we're
okay.
fine.
Okay, well, that's void then, that one. Yeah. Who's the best team player?
Ooh. I think I would be.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. He's definitely a people kind of person.
Definitely, yeah.
Strong. Who's the funniest?
Gaz always says I've got funnier since I married him.
Oh, most definitely.
So I would say Gaz, but I'm working my way up.
You are teaching.
She's getting funnier.
She's getting funnier.
In a good way.
Thanks.
Okay, who's the best at getting things done? Okay.
Did you point at me?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's definitely pointing at you. Yeah. Okay, who's good at maths, finances? Who's got the strengths in that area?
I don't know.
Who balances the budget in your house?
We do it together.
We do it together.
We do it together.
I definitely don't think it's our favourite thing or our strength.
I did work in a bank when I first moved to Wales, but I did have a calculator. So
okay.
But together.
Lois is very good at kind of the forward planning and the kind of that bigger picture and kind of going, okay, if we want to do this, even if you think for our family, let's save, we need to do this. She's a bit more of that, whereas I will be the person who look at renewing the insurance and all that.
Yeah, all those kind of things. Okay, who can spin the most plates?
Physically or
metaphorically?
Yeah, metaphorically, yeah.
Lois, definitely.
Gaz won't be able to do it physically either.
Have you tried those kids things, those days with the plastic ones? Yeah, absolutely terrible. Yeah, it's so horrible. Who's the best under pressure?
I would say Lois.
Okay, that's true. I think Gavin's probably better under pressure than I am, yeah. Who's the best communicator? See, that's hard because I think you both are great.
That is hard because
strengths.
I think Lois is a very good communicator, probably better than I, but I probably get more opportunity.
Yeah.
To communicate to people.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, who's the best with the details?
Lois.
Okay, yeah, love
I feel
it.
like the finger is on me a lot.
Who's the best networker?
Good, thank you.
And it should be.
That's good.
Coffee, cake, lunch, pastas.
Come
yeah,
on.
he's a
If
networker.
it wasn't, we'd be worried.
We would be.
Yeah. Who brings the most joy? Oh, that's hard because I've only been in the room with you 5 minutes. I'm like, these guys just full
We
of
we
life,
like to laugh.
like
We like to
passion,
laugh.
Yeah, we
joy.
both bring joy, I think. Yeah, we'll take that
That's
back.
just a great. Who's best at listening? Who's got the good listening skills?
I'd say Lois.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Lois.
Yeah.
And who is best at bringing like excellence?
I would say Lois.
Okay.
This is
Gaz,
why
you
you
may as well
brought
go
me here.
home. We'll just have to
Yeah.
Lois.
See you guys. I'll sponsor the next one.
Sponsored by her husband.
Sponsored by a husband, yeah, love that. So tonight we're talking about creativity. We're talking about what else? We're talking excellence and quality, doing things like real quality, and hoping to try and learn loads from you, and talking to Gaz and just preparing. We're thinking you've got so much to offer in this kind of area. So keen for our listeners, keen for people who are watching to kind of just learn and just hear some different ideas, which is great. So. What springs to mind? Or actually, let's go back first. Tell us what you do in the church? What are some of the roles that you do, so people get an idea of that?
Yeah, so I look after the administration at church, and I also look after communications, which we're slowly putting names to some of these things. So before I was working at church on staff, I was doing a lot of the kind of media. So graphics, filming, all that kind of communication stuff. And then when I came onto staff, then took on the administration side of it. And recently come into a building too, so that brings in a whole another side of administration to it as well. So still finding our feet with some things, but they would be like the two main things I would do, but that does come intertwined into where we serve as a couple, and our strengths too.
Yeah, because you've talked before about being team and people and kind of gathering, and you'll bring the details, and there's that real partnership, and I think that's great, isn't it? Because often, I'm serving on my own, Emma will support me, but we're not working together, which is, the case for you guys. You are in it together and responsible for it. And that's something sweet about that, I'm sure.
And I think that's been a journey too, because like over the years, I always had this thing of like, we need to serve together, together. But I was kidding myself of like, we also have our own strengths and our own passions and stuff like that. And so, like back in the day when Gaz used to serve in youth, I felt like I needed to be in there because I needed to be with him. But actually what I brought was the creative stuff or those kind of areas. And so it was just a complement with Gaz. And so I didn't have to be exactly the same as him. And that over the years, that's kind of unraveled, and we've,
That whole thing about team and bringing different gifts, and like you guys obviously complement each other in that, which is lovely. So love all of that.
And that's taken time, like you said. I think you hit the nail on the head, mate, about details and stuff like that. For me, I'm not a details person. Like, give me the people and give me the idea. I'm good at ideas. I've realised this. I love giving ideas. But then I just want to walk out of the room when you talk about the detail. But that is very much Lois's strength, is going and how do we bring people on the journey? And that is, I think, again, something which is, and we've talked about this before, haven't we, is how do we always bring other people on the journey? How do we communicate that? And I suppose that's all around the excellence, what we're trying to achieve there as well.
Excellent. So, Gaz, tell us some examples where you've seen Lois like bring real excellence to the role. Like, what are some of the examples that you've got?
Yeah, I think there's multiple. I could give you a massive list, but I suppose one of the ones which really come to mind, and again, this is something which has grown over the last few years, and maybe not so much the last year because where we've been at, but Lois and Leah, especially Leah, who leads our church with Heath, they wanted to put on an event which would really honour the ladies in our church, but also maybe ones we work with through toddlers or friends and things like that. So they came up with the idea of just doing a ladies' tea party in the summer. And they started it, and it's grown over the last couple of years, and they basically cater for it. They do everything from gifts for the ladies to they do entertainment, if you want to call it that, like songs or poems and things like that. But they have, I think last time, was it like 150 ladies?
Wow, really? Wow.
Outside, they get all the gazebos, and it is, I know I'm biased, but you look at it, it is incredible. People would pay 25, 30 quid a head to attend it if it was not in the church. Do you know what I mean? It's that good.
It's like that wedding quality style.
It is. And
it feels like a wedding.
And Lois very much, and she does this really well, and I think this the excellence is she understands she has the idea but can't do everything, so brings other people on the journey, but most of it and much of it comes from her initial ideas and going, how do we do this? And it has grown over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Anything else to add into that?
Yeah. I think the last time we did it, I just had a baby 4 weeks ago, so it was a bit crazy.
And you're still going on it.
Yeah, I think it's
commitment.
Yeah, I love events. I know not everything is circulated on an event. We don't focus on just the events, but for me, events intertwined into the life of church are great places for people to feel valued, but also for people to find Jesus. And so those tea parties we do, like, I want women to walk into that place and feel loved and walk away asking the question, like, what have I just been to? What have I just experienced? From like personalised gifts that are on the table to men offering them a drink and waitering on them to actually this person's got a dietary requirement and we've like met every need for them. You know, all of those different elements. I want them to feel loved and accepted and ultimately know Jesus through this. And so for me, all of those details matter for those moments, whether that's a tea party or whatever event we're putting on. So definitely, because there's an excellence, isn't there, about God and a quality about God that I think on the website I talk about, like stamping like who God is on everything that we do. And so I don't want someone to come to like a shoddy event and to be like there's not enough food or things that have gone wrong, or you know, you want people to experience like real quality, like real thought, like you're saying, people feel valued, they've come, they've thought about me. You know, those dietary requirements you've met on, and it's not just like the cheapest option to meet it, but actually you've gone over and above and thought about it. And so those things like make a difference, because people come to church events, don't they, and they're almost looking for something to put them off. It's like, what's the one thing here? I don't really want to be here. Like, I hate Christians. I need an excuse not to. And they're looking for something. And I'm like, right, I want to deliver an event that's got all the details. That, like, there's nothing that you can just pick on and go, well, that wasn't thought about, you know. And it sounds like you've got that kind of quality. I love events as well. I just think getting people together doing stuff. Summer barbecues or baptisms, and like we did a Prosecco and strawberries Sunday once. So I managed to convince Pete to not turn up at that?
I was like, Pete, I think you should preach like 15 minutes this week, and then let's like surprise them and have like Prosecco and like chocolate strawberries and stuff outside. Like, and you know, you just do things like that to like surprise the church and put it on, and people like remember those things.
Yeah, they do.
Do you know what I mean? And they remember that kindness and what they experience. And so events just have got to be excellent, and I love all that kind of detail.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
you bring all that. How do you do that on a Sunday morning? Because you know, there's something about excellence, isn't there? You can put on a one-off excellent event, which is great, and people do it. But doing it consistently each Sunday is really difficult, isn't it? And so how do you approach that? What kind of things have you got, checkpoints or things in your head that you're working on together to make that happen?
I think the first thing I would say is, like, we do want excellence and we do want to strive for that, but it's also being like managing expectations. And I think actually sometimes the most important journey we need to go on as individuals when we're thinking about this, and I know for Lois is actually, what's my first expectation? Because actually Lois's expectations often would be, this has to be this. But to achieve that actually is not manageable on a weekly basis. So I think first and foremost is managing our own expectation of what are we going to achieve. So even like if you think putting on Prosecco and strawberries, I'm not going to do that every single week. Like, it might be a problem if you do.
Why not?
But do you know what I mean? But we overcommit. We kind of commit to something, and then we realise this is not something we can deliver week in, week out.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's not to say that we shouldn't strive for excellence. We should, but actually we need to have conversations and wise perspective. Going, do you think we can actually do this every single week? If we can't, what can we do? And I think that's really important, is to talk that through.
Yeah, and I think, like, when you look at an event, when it's a one-off, you can throw a lot into that, and you can go the extra mile. But I think, or if it's like, you go around the church calendar and there's key things that come in, like a Mother's Day or, Easter, different things like that, you can go for that. But from a week-to-week basis, I think it's not going... sounds bad, but not going all out every time, but actually scaling back and also going back to, okay, why are we doing this? Is this something that can keep going? Rather than burning out because you're trying to do things or change things every time. And that's definitely a journey. I think with graphics, that's definitely a journey that I'm going on as well. But I think from a week to week thing, in terms of church, on a Sunday and like buildings and stuff like that, we were in a rental place. And so even when it comes to things like setting up, like having an info area, like all of those practical things, I try to create it as simple as possible to set up so that anyone could do it and it was a quick thing, rather than build this massive thing that wasn't sustainable.
But everything serves the purpose and serves what do we want people to feel when they come into our buildings? When people come into our services, what do they... And actually that's the most important question, isn't it? Of going... Because sometimes we think excellence or putting on a Sunday is going bigger, better every single week. But actually, sometimes it's the simple things, making sure there's toilet rolls in the toilets. Or do you know what? Making sure actually the tile on the step into the entrance has been fixed. Do you know what I mean? These things actually, sometimes they're the mundane, if you want to call it that, but they're the things which make a difference to people as they come in. And I just wanted to pick up on, you mentioned then about the graphics and the weekly, and just to pick up on that, what I think is really important is sometimes we think we need to do new all the time, or we think we need to recreate something all the time. And I think this is the journey we're going on, is going, there is a time and a place for that, but actually sometimes there's also a season where you just got to get stuff done. And I think that's sometimes the battle between creative people and people who want to get the job done, if that makes sense. And that's sometimes the battle we go on together.
I struggle because I love change. I love changing stuff. I don't like things staying the same. And so, but that is something that I've had to learn versus time as well, of like, actually, how much time have I got to throw into this? So that is definitely...
But that is one of the ingredients of excellence, isn't it? That desire to change, that kind of openness to change, isn't it? To go, actually, we could always do things better. And these kind of things are often, as always, sometimes they can be a real strength in a context, and then sometimes they can be a real weakness, can't they? So if we're striving and we set our standards so high on a Sunday that I want it like this, how's that going to impact the people that are doing it? How's that going to impact the teams that we're in?
Very good.
Are they going to get burnt out? Are they going to be tired? Are they going to lose their joy in actually what it is? And it's those kind of questions, isn't it? You've got to wrestle with the balance, isn't it? And bring in kind of like what the leadership want to do and what is practical. There are challenges in that, aren't there, as well?
Definitely.
So we want the leaders to give the flavour and to make people feel at ease. That there's no distractions in the building or the meeting that people go, oh, hang on, what I've switched off because I'm not listening now because I'm thinking about this. All those kind of things we do have to think through and kind of bring that excellence. But you're right, bringing it back to the purpose. Why are we doing Sunday morning? Like, what do we want people to get out of it?
I think as well, the other thing that is always going around in my head with a Sunday is making people feel at home, and just that connection with people. And so just one of the things that came to mind was one of the things we did a couple of years ago now is we created like a card for when kids came to our Liberty Kids on a Sunday morning and they left, we gave them a card and a little pack for them to go away with if they were new. And so it's just these little things those things you can keep going, but they create a personal touch with people. And I mean, someone in the kids team would write on there, "It was so good to see you." Those kind of things that go into the hands of the people if they've been there for the first time, and it just adds that personal element to it. So those things I think are great to build into.
And there's consistency on that as well, isn't it? Because we can often come up with an idea and we do, but the reality is that all needs to be administered. How do you say that word?
Administered.
And facilitated. I should have stuck with that word. But all that needs to be facilitated because otherwise that's not excellence. So I think it's even having those ideas go, this is a great idea, but can we do this? Like, for example, like many churches, visitors come in and you get their details. That's really important. And we say, we'll give you a call in the week. But if we're so busy or we haven't got a team to ring them, we're making promises. So we need to make sure we don't just come up with ideas, but we look at how we can facilitate them on a weekly basis.
It can keep going no matter who's around to do it.
That it is manageable, isn't it? That actually there's one person who's responsible for doing that, isn't it? Absolutely right. And there's also, I mean, at the minute, like excellence at the minute might be actually having the right kind of safeguards in place for the 2 meter distancing and things like that, making sure that people can come in and they feel safe, and there's that excellence of, we've worked out a procedure, we've worked out a way of doing it, we're thinking about you, we want to keep you safe, and so administrating those excellent things are important as well, aren't they?
It's really important, and on that, I think one of the things we found, and like Lois again worked really hard on this, is actually how do we communicate those things ahead of a Sunday? Because sometimes it's too late on a Sunday. Is how do we help quell those fears on Friday, or when they're thinking, do I book into Eventbrite? How do we help people realise this is a safe space and we're putting in those procedures?
In place,
So like Lois has worked really hard in how we communicate that through our social media channels, through our email, through our communication, even our communication to our leaders and our small groups. What's our language around this? Are we seeing this as a burden, as going, oh my goodness, like I can't believe we have to do this? Or is our language going, look, we are putting these things in place so we can gather together?
Absolutely right.
I think that's important.
We want to protect people and keep them safe. And if you're logging onto the live stream, you see the speaker in the worship, but you don't see what's going on in the room, do you? And all the stuff and all the preparation that happens to do it is key, and right down to the level of detail of having like the right risk assessments in place, that you've thought through all those details is so important. But I love it. We did a video for ours, a kind of regather video, and just walk people through, here's what we want you to do if you've got kids, this is where you drop them off, this is what we need you to have your mask on, we need you to sanitize about 20 times, along the way.
Your hands drop off.
Until your hands go, It's all that kind of stuff. And what other ways have you got, of bringing excellence to the role? And what other things are you doing in the background that people would go, oh, I love that, or this is what you guys have done here. So you're designing and doing all that kind of graphic design stuff. And I've seen some of your stuff on Facebook, and some of it's, I think there's a real quality about it, and I think that as well. What other things have you got going on?
And on that, I think this would be a really good. How did you come across to do that? Did you train for that? Why?
No.
Have you just picked up and learnt it? How to do it?
Okay, so where does it start? I think years ago, I had a friend that was living in Australia, and she was a graphic designer, and she did it on the side of being a mum, basically.
Right.
And at that time, I wasn't even with Gaz, but I was at one point, I would like to get married and have kids, and so I saw her doing it, and I thought, I could do this.
What a good idea.
I could do this. I love design, and even at the very beginning of us starting this, I didn't know the programs, I didn't know anything, but I had a friend that worked at Willow Creek in the States, and she was a graphic designer for them, and so I started doing some designs just in programs that I had, and I would send it to her, and she would
so like Microsoft programs and stuff like that, just really basic.
Turn it, into like printable. You know, I would send her the concept and she'd turn it, and then over time started kind of looking at some of the programs, teaching myself it. And then, I mean, in terms of like my own business, I started that 12 years ago, and I've just been doing that ever since for lots of different people. And so, I just taught myself. So that was the kind of graphic design side of it. And when it comes to like video and videography, that is what I learnt when I was working at Apple. And so picked all of that kind of stuff up there. And I love visual stuff. Like I'm a very visual person, and so just carry on.
I mean, that is such a huge asset, isn't it? To any office. Like we got people that we outsource and stuff, and you have to coordinate all the time. Right, we need this in 2 weeks' time, and there's a real program. But having somebody like in-house, if I could just jump on a computer and do it myself, it'd be great.
Although there is a downfall. There is a downfall
with
with that.
What's the downfall? Because this sounds
great.
The
downfall is, if I need something, I can just do it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think sometimes planning ahead, which we can't always do, I totally get that.
I think that's a really good point, because sometimes we don't put those programs in place because we go, oh, well, we can just do that. But
and that's my own fault as well. There's times where I'm like, oh, I just need to update that, so I'll just do it. And that obviously takes time.
Yeah. You've realised the two work really closely together, and it's really
important. They work really closely together, but at the same time they are two roles. There's a good side, and there's also the intense
and
side.
Maybe over time, as the church grows, like that will broaden. There'll be people that you bring on to do specific roles, and we've done that. But when you're in a startup and you're in like a church plant, you're in first 5 years or whatever it is you guys have been going. It's it's a massive time saver, money saver. Like you don't have to explain to someone like the flavour or what you want them to produce. Like everyone's got a brand, haven't they, of some kind. But if you are the brand, you get the brand.
And it's been helpful especially in the last season where things have changed week to week. Things just keep changing, and so that is it's been really good to.
Legislation's changed. Right, we've got to do this now.
And it's such a great way of communicating, isn't it? And being able to present, and that's, I suppose, one of Lois's passions. And I've kind of jumped on board is going to create something, whether that is a physical thing people watch, people hold, or people watch, or an event people come to. These things, creativity and presenting the gospel in those ways, speak to people so many different ways. Like I think of even things like toddler groups is like many churches do toddler groups, but how do the parents in our community hear about them? How do we communicate that there is a safe place for families to come along to? And I think we have such a opportunity to present those things really well, which is really important.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Some of the other things we've done, like excellence behind the scenes, and maybe this will prompt you to think of other things. Like, so when we get together as elders or deacons and we come together and pray together, we'll fill out a little card and send it to the person. Say we prayed for you today. Stick it in the post, and it means so much to people, isn't it, when you get a card coming through. I remember the guys were praying for my son once, and we prayed for him, and they said, oh, what do we do? Should I just take it home? And they're like, no, stick it in the post. And when my son had it, when he got it, when he received it in the post, he was just amazed. You guys thought about me this week. You guys prayed for me this week. There's something of excellence and equality about that.
It places value, and I can think of many things. I think of, and I suppose the art is knowing what you need to create, and knowing what other people and what you can signpost and nick, if you want to call it that. And I think that's a balance, isn't it? Because sometimes we're always creating new things, whereas there's many great resources out there.
Definitely.
But we did a couple of years ago in January, Lois produced an amazing resource for families. We have a lot of families in our church. Just a daily devotional that families could sit down with. But what was great is families would pick that up and go, this is excellent. This wasn't just photocopied or anything like that. There was an excellence to it. But also Lois came up with the idea of doing table mats, so that when families come around, you're talking about faith together. We did it in one of our family services. But what I loved about that is that then a national organisation saw the idea and was like, this is amazing, and have now based a whole campaign around it and created their own, because it's a really great way of doing it. So it's coming up with those ideas, isn't it, in that? And another, just my last one, and you can jump in now.
I'm glad that he's saying it, because mentally I forget things.
Maybe Lois is the most forgetful now.
Maybe I am.
I'm pointing to me now.
So as you're saying it, I'm like, you did that.
And literally, we could talk about this stuff for hours and hours, but it's more to prompt ideas, isn't it? And I suppose one of the stories that really grabbed me when you were just saying that is a couple of Mother's Days ago was we would often celebrate women on that day, and Lois would coordinate like maybe gifts for the ladies, or we often would do like cakes after, just really go to town and have this kind of, we as men we would always get a bit envious because we'd get the last jammy dodger.
You would have your moment.
We would. But one thing I remember, this lady who came and after the service she came up to Lois and was like, thank you so much, I forgot it was Mother's Day today until I came to church and you gave me this. Single mum. And she had forgotten it was Mother's Day. And she had come into church and we had celebrated ladies, we had celebrated mums. I can't even remember what we did that Sunday, like what gift or whether it was cakes and stuff. But there was just a moment where we got to celebrate that mum in a challenging circumstance and situation. And I think sometimes we forget when we're doing and we're busy with stuff that actually it does make an impact, it does make a difference in the ones, in the people's lives. So I just thought of that story as you were talking then, mate.
I struggle to think on the spot, but I think thinking back to the kids stuff, I love designing kids stuff. I don't know, there's something in me that I just enjoy doing that. And so even doing those like journals you were talking about before and the table mats, like I remember sitting down like as a kid around the dining table with my family and having these like amazing conversations prompted by my parents. But you know, having these mats that help families to, like literally was a plate on the mat with knife and fork on there, and then an area to like do some drawing, questions like when did you go on, have you been on a missions trip, what was it, all these kind of things that just prompt conversation around the table. And so
kids can look at those questions and ask them as well, like,
that's it, and it's for all of those. So and I think that was really good. We did that in a family service around big tables, so it was like we had loads of dining tables all over the hall. That was really good.
I just think that's amazing. Have you got any like copies that we can put on the church office website? That's just such a brilliant idea, because we encourage so many families and friends to come together and eat together. It's a very biblical thing, isn't it, to come and eat together? And then you've just like added a tool there that goes, we could make this meaningful, we can make this, like these meal times, actually really special.
And we are big fans of eating together. We love food, we love going and finding new places and stuff, but it takes it to another level when you have these conversations. Like our kids are only small, but right now we're already having conversations with them, you know, around the table. And these, sometimes it's like, where do you start? And so actually having things like these tools, whether it's a table mat or something that you know going through, just to talk around and being like, let's ask these questions, like, oh, have you ever been healed? and then that prompts a conversation. And so
I love that. I can imagine like us inviting like our unbelieving friends and their kids, like just colouring in it or get involved in it.
And that it's always looking for those opportunities, isn't it? To, I think there's a couple of opportunities to equip our families and our congregation members, and I think that's a role we all do, isn't it? Whether that's equipping them through our teaching on a Sunday or through small groups, but then what are the opportunities through the things that we create and deliver for the people in our community? And I think I'm so excited for this season that we are stepping into as the church, because there's going to be so many opportunities to show the love of Christ, but it takes a creativity, doesn't it, of how do we do this for today, not what did we used to do, because some of those things won't work for today, will they?
And that's that. I just love it. I think the table mat thing is just like knocked me off my feet. It's just so good.
I'll get you one.
And it's just one of these things where it's like you've you've brought some like creativity in design, and you've made it gospel. You know, you've made it missional. You've made it like ministry. Do you know what I mean? Just a simple thought. You know.
Yeah.
I need some more. How many other ideas have you got that you haven't acted on?
See,
yet?
I
Because
can't remember right now.
I tell you, like, and this is again coming to your point
world-class.
earlier. This is the bit which freaks me out. Is like literally, we could be driving home from something, and Lois just coming up with ideas, and this is where the balance of what idea is for today.
Yeah.
What idea is just a nice idea,
Yeah.
and what idea do we need to put on the shelf for
Yeah.
another time? And
Yeah.
I think that is really important because it's also recognising circumstance of young kids, like, do you know, part-time working, leading in other areas of church. How do you, but then some ideas we have, and I think this is a challenge, isn't it? Some ideas we have, but we're not going to be the people who carry it through.
Yeah, that's right.
And that, I think, is sometimes the biggest challenge, isn't it? Is because they won't always do it like we think they should.
And working with other people. Like, I don't do all this all on my own, you know. I don't, you know, even that table mat idea, it wasn't like I had the idea and boom, it was done, you know. It's talking through with the leadership. Is this something that we want to do as part of the family service? Getting it looked over, you know. I'm definitely not doing it all on my own. But I think you're right. It's seasonal and like, okay, right now, this is important. This is going to benefit where we're going, rather than, because I will have ideas all the time, but it's like, okay, I'm just going to write them down. I'm just going to write them down. And maybe I do. I have a book that I write things down, and I'm like, they may come into fruition at one point. If it's God timing, they will come out. But, you know, you also don't want to blurt them all out and do all your ideas all in one go. So people like true. You know, creativity's all over them.
And it's great, isn't it? I think we do need other people to bring ideas to the table.
Yeah, definitely.
And it can be frustrating, isn't it? Where you they don't deliver it in the same way that you want, or they don't deliver with the excellence that you want, or they don't value certain small details in the same way you. And so it can be a challenge to like let go of some of those things. And it is trying to balance those, isn't it? Of actually, God, take this idea and make it work with this group or this section or whatever, and trust in Him. There's fruit in it. So
and I think one of the things we've found, and we're definitely on the journey still, is really when we're bringing ideas even to the leadership, and not every idea is a goer. Do you know what I mean? And I think you have to be secure in who you are and why you do what you do, because otherwise, if you are what you do, then your identity and value is based in whether people like the idea or not, or whether people engage in that event or not. Well, actually, let's be realistic. Not everything we do works. So actually, we can't just take our identity or a value from that, because, do you know what, we'll be up, down, but actually we need to be secure enough, because otherwise that will hold us back from bringing the ideas to the table and go, well, do you think the pastor will like that, or do you think the congregation will engage in that? That's why we do end up doing what we always done, because we're not willing to take the steps. So it's being secure in that.
That's good. That's very pastoral, mate. It's just
come on,
pastoral.
The pastoral one, people.
Care for us in our, when our ideas don't work.
You guys run with the ideas.
You don't like it?
Full of ideas. I love that. Anything else like we're doing behind the scenes that like is excellent? Because we're talking there's a lot of ministry there, isn't it? And that's good. And I think the building is an area, isn't it, to bring excellence. And I know you guys are like new in this, but like we were joking earlier about our toilets. I think our toilets are probably the best toilets in the city. Like I'm
excited to see them.
You need to go down and have a look at the toilets later, because someone came in and they were like, "These are better than the Celtic Manor." I was like, yes.
Whoa, come on.
You know, the trustees were like, "How much are you spending on these toilets?" And I was like, "No, they got to be quality. Like you go into a church, like you gotta have the best toilets." And so many people go, "Oh, your toilets are amazing. I love this place." It's funny, isn't it? Just such a
we judge it.
Toilets. It's mental.
It's so important, and I think on that, as much as we're on this new journey to buildings, but in the last 6 years, we've hired the good, bad, and the ugly in Newport in the nicest possible way. But one thing we've always tried doing is, okay, this is the space we've got. but how do we make the space, even if it's just temporarily on a Saturday evening for 2 hours, how do we make that space welcoming? How do we make it warm? How do we make it that people walk in and go, oh, okay. And I think that's something which is a journey as well, of going, okay, this might not be our place and it might not be ideal, but how do we make it the best it can be? And I think that's something we've done.
Yeah, and I think, you know, where we're at the moment, in terms of having a building and things like signage and all of that, and I think it's the clarity of things, making it clear for people, like, you know, whether that's like us going into a new building or people coming from the community and they've never stepped into the building before, making sure, especially at the moment in terms of like signage for COVID, that they are clear and they are there, but also like, where are the toilets? You know, where is the room that I can take my baby to and change my baby, or, you know, nurse my baby and stuff. And so for me, like, working through the signage, which I'm still doing today, I was sorting a sign, so for the building, but that clarity of like, you know, instructions of where to go, things that go into people's hands. All this is, you know, we're not there. I'm working on it. These are my day-to-day things at the moment. So, but I think that's right. It's wherever you are, making that place feel welcoming and feel like home to someone that walks in.
Because otherwise, we're always waiting for the next thing or the big thing. And even the reason why I asked Lois the question about how did you start with the design, because I think sometimes we can look and go, oh, we see that church, what they're producing, well, we haven't got anyone who's trained in that, or we can't do that. But there's ways to learn, there's ways to grow. And I think even on that whole thing of excellence, sometimes we think the excellence is what we're creating for the people or what we are preparing. And that is so true, and we need to do that. But I think one of the things which, again, we're a little bit different on is Lois's excellence in serving the people we lead together with or serve alongside. So our department heads, our other leaders, our small group leaders, how are we serving them excellently? How are we communicating to them in this season where things change all the time? And I'm like, oh, don't worry, like they'll read the church email. They'll know that things are changing. And Lois like, no, we need to communicate to them as well that things are changing. And I think that's something we need to learn as well, is how do we serve the people we lead alongside and we get the honour to do this with? How do we lead and serve them well as well? And I think that's something that Lois does really well as well. And we get it wrong, do you know what I mean? There's times where the first time we hear about stuff is on a Sunday, and hey, that's life, isn't it, sometimes? But I think the goal is, how do we serve everyone well? How do we create that? And I think that's really good.
That's right. People feeling like they're part of it, they've got all the information they need. Those things are crucial, aren't they? How do you book on? Finding it, like you know, we get a phone call on a Friday. I can't get on the booking system, and you're like, is this user error?
Friday, it's like, Saturday,
no,
I think.
Saturday.
Sunday morning sometimes, isn't it? Oh yeah.
Just getting all that information and like actually doing the hard work of like, okay, so the old people like will get on the phone, do like a 10-minute session on how to book in, and you do it because you know what, it's just the next 10 weeks they're going to be fine until they forget again. Exactly.
It's all good.
What do I do now?
Patience and grace.
It's so true. And so one of the things I love about having a building, and you'll have this joy of it, is like bringing creativity to the building, so to the spaces, to the colours, to that, we want it to be hospitable, we want it to be homely and all those things. And when you've got that kind of canvas to start painting on, it's exciting. I love kind of those things. And then looking at ways in which actually, have we got people in the church who can bring something to this area? If we've got people who are really good with gardens that can do some plants, can do some stuff, what do we need? Excellence in the sound, the quality of the visuals, you're right on the signage, that's a massive deal, isn't it? All the quality of just all the refreshments, all the things, queuing times, like I think about these things, like the flow of people, all that kind of stuff is just, it goes all the way down to that level of detail, doesn't it? And if you can do it without burning people out, with it being joy and life, then do all the things that you can to do it. And we started, didn't we, at the point where going, just remember your capacity and have people actually with you that go, that's a good idea, but hey, hang on a sec, let's just, let's pull that one back. And
and it's keeping the main thing, like, and that's things that we're learning all the time of like, okay, this is important right now.
Yes.
So let's focus on this. Yeah. This can come at a later date, but this is what's necessary right now, rather than trying to do everything. Yeah.
Whole discussion about excellence, I think is another point to add in here, is that you want to create a culture where there's real encouragement, don't you? Where you see excellence and creativity, and I want there to be, I'm always on the lookout to go, oh man, you're doing that really well. Like God's really given you a gift in that, and just go, thank you for doing that. And just the different, people don't always see the difference that they do. I'm doing this little bit over here, but they don't realise how well they're doing it and how much of an impact it's having on people. Really just good. Like somebody like welcoming kids upstairs, as they come into their classes. I'm like, you've got so much life. Like the whole morning could be totally different if you weren't here doing that. And like celebrating those kind of things that we see in people, where they deliver something or there's excellence. It's just like creating that culture makes a massive difference.
Really. And it is, and it's often not the big things. And like we've tried to kind of prioritize celebrating the wins. Like the little wins is like, let's celebrate those. I've been in so many meetings where the first half hour we're just talking about what we need to do differently. And of course we need to review and develop, and that's really important. But I want to start off conversation meetings, first of all, let's celebrate the lives changed, let's celebrate the wins, let's celebrate what did go well. Then because otherwise we'll get into all the detail of what we need to do differently, what didn't work, what didn't. And actually that goes on for far longer, and then it's a token at the end. Oh, by the way, we saw that her husband came to church, didn't he? That's amazing. Well, let's start off with that first. And I think we do need to celebrate that win. We do need to recognise the importance that our volunteers are playing. And
definitely.
I think that's such a great point.
And I think that this is something I also learnt when I was like working in retail as well, where I was at, of like, in the moment, do it. So if you're walking past that person and that's welcoming, like say it there and then, because you'll forget. Like it happens.
Best intentions.
I'll forget because I forget everything. But unless I write it down on a list. But in the moment, go do it. It's like if we've got a word for someone, go speak to them and give them the word. Equally, go encourage them. In the moment,
good.
So.
And looking out for people who are doing those bits that nobody really notices and stuff like that. Like just invisible, but they do it and it's brilliant and it's excellent. So we've got a lady in our church who just cleans the toilets, and she comes in and that's all she does. And you think, what a job! Like, who wants to come in and just clean the toilets every week? But like, she does an amazing job. And it's almost like it's invisible because she just does it, and it's done every week, and it's consistent and it's great. And like, I just love those kind of things. You think, right, those people we really should be like encouraging and just thanking God for, that we've got folk in our church who can deliver excellence. Like, they might not be able to have the ideas, but the implementation they're on.
You want a toilet roll there when you go to the toilet,
you need it.
So thank you.
And that brings a point, doesn't it? Because I think we talk about excellence on the kind of the positive side. But where there isn't excellence, it can go wrong, can't it, in a bad way. So you think something like child protection policy. If you haven't got excellence in a child protection policy, like it can seriously go wrong and seriously mess people up and just bring real just horrible situations. And so it protects on the other side, isn't it? And I think there's a role there as well. There's actually recognising that we have to deliver these things with excellence now. We have to do these risk assessments. Nobody wants to. But if we see it in a positive way, and I always try and think about it in this way and think, what would happen if it went wrong? Like, if you just stop and think about that for a minute, like that's absolutely huge. You get the wrong registration with a kid who's just dropped off, or you've given them to the wrong parent because they're not allowed to go with dad, and dad's turned up at church, no one else really knows. And there's just so many scenarios like that. You think, oh my goodness. So important on the other side.
It is.
In the protecting, and the caring.
And, it is.
And I think also with the pastoral thing. So I constantly encourage our guys, like, do your diaries well. Like, make sure you don't cancel people. Like, make sure you communicate with people right, because you can miss an appointment with somebody and cancel it because it's not convenient or something's gone, and that can have like a massive effect on that individual. And so like just those little bits of excellence actually just bring about. So
just in our daily lives, isn't it, day to day. And I think that's the important thing, isn't it, is what is the fruit of our days, what are we putting our effort and time into. And it's not always about the event or creating the things, and those things are amazing and we're so thankful for them, but it is turning up on time for a team meeting. It is saying thank you to those volunteers. Do you know what I mean? It is making sure we have the correct details on the youth trip letter, that parents know the right phone number for the weekend. All those things are really, really important. And I think in that is having the realisation that we can't do it on our own. That if when we do try and do it on our own, that is when we do make mistakes. And of course we make mistakes, and we've talked about that. We make mistakes,
or it becomes too overwhelming.
Yes.
It's too much.
And then we just don't do that. And when you were talking about the lady cleaning the toilets, and I was just blown away a couple of months ago, is we're often one of the first ones at church, and with some of the teams setting up and worship team, and our welcome team would normally come about 30 minutes before church starts, ready to pray together with the wider team. But we turned up and I was like, and the one couple who would serve diligently, they came early that Sunday to welcome the volunteers. No one asked them to. But when we got out of the car, I'm not being funny, in probably 5 years of church, last church, first time we've been welcomed into church. And I apart from when maybe our baby was 2 days old and we came to church. But do you know what I mean? I was blown away. Like this couple had thought, we want to welcome the worship team. We want to welcome the team who were coming to set up. And I was like, thanks, guys. So it's those little things made my day. And I think it's really important. Those little moments.
I think it's great. And if you're listening to this and you're an administrator or involved in operations, or in a voluntary or full-time role, that what we're talking about here is, isn't it? You may not have the creativity to come up with like the placemats and the dinners and the afternoon teas and all those things. You may not be able to deliver that, but the second half of our conversation here is so important, that actually if you implement the safeguarding policy, excellent. Like you are bringing excellence to the church. Don't kind of look at this and go, oh, hang on, I don't do that, so I'm not doing it excellently. It's like if you can do things consistently in a way that serves people, that serves the church, that serves the family, that serves visitors, you are being excellent. And I think maybe tonight, and maybe listening to this podcast, actually get some fresh eyes and go, actually, God's been good to us. Actually, we've never had a safeguarding issue. We've never let people down. We've never had to cancel. We've never run out of toilet paper. All these things.
Always got tea bags.
I think even just, I was thinking then, I had an idea. But like even one of those things of like, on a Sunday, if you've got double doors, open both doors. Simple things like that by having both doors open, that is such a welcoming thing, rather than having one door shut and it's like, we're half open, we're not, or maybe come around the side. But actually that one little gesture of opening both doors just opens the door so people feel welcomed in. So, those little things that are their wins, and that are important. And
I think people notice the real deal, don't they? So I could put like a glossy magazine together for churches each week, like notices. We can put all the little short videos together in our notices. We can do all these things. But sometimes you go to smaller churches and just the person on the door who's welcoming is actually the real deal, and they are bringing an excellence that's not glossy, it's not polished, but it's just real. And they're there because they love Jesus. They're there because they want to welcome you. They're interested in you. And they want to make sure that when you come, you just have the best time ever. Like that, you can't buy that. You can't throw money at that.
They bother with your kids. They make sure that your kid has an extra biscuit. It's all those little things. Do you know what I mean? But we laugh, and it's those little things. And I think you're dead right. Sometimes we do focus on the big things, but I suppose the biggest takeaway for me is actually the consistency. It is consistent. And I was just remembering when one of the first couple of years of being in church is, as we were a growing congregation, we started off that each Sunday, some of the ladies in the church would bring biscuits and cakes to have after the service. Yeah. That was lovely when we were a congregation of 30 or 40 people with kids. But as you grow, this is what it got to the point that some weeks we had as if Greg's had just delivered a feast, like literally everything. Yeah. I think to the point some weeks we were even having sausage rolls and pasties, and you were like, oh my goodness, like, all right, preacher, finish now because we know there's a feast and I need to eat it before I go to my mum's for Sunday lunch. But then other weeks you'd be lucky if we had a moo biscuit and a niece biscuit kind of thing. That was the thing. And we laughed about it, but actually we had such a willingness from people to bring, which was lovely. Yeah. But the reality was that was not what we needed to carry us forward. Yeah. So what we made a decision was like, that's lovely. Thank you so much for bringing this stuff. Yeah. But as we're growing, unless you're going to bring it every week for everyone, then actually not. So we made a decision. It's best actually to keep it simple on a week-to-week basis. Yeah. But actually, we made the most of the summer. So over the summer provision, after the service, we'd have everything from ice cream Sundays to hot dog Sundays. Yeah. So it was more a thing. Or on a special occasion, we'd have loads of cakes. Yeah. But rather than it be 1 week everything, and then the next week nothing kind of thing.
Picking when they want to come to church. Yeah. And then we moved into really good coffee. So that was the next upgrade.
Yeah, people love good coffee, don't they?
It's all about the good coffee. Yeah.
Coffee and cakes.
But it's those little things of and you want to honour, you want to thank people. Thank you for your willingness. Yes. But we are growing, it's bringing just 2 sausage rolls for a congregation is now 150, 200 is not going to work.
Feeding of the 5,000, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we should have prayed for the sausage rolls.
No, this is so helpful discussion. It really is, and consistency keeps coming up. I think that's really important. Yeah. Just having somebody take a lead to go, what can we do to make things better? Because we can always make things better, can't we? Yeah. Identify if you're in leadership and you think, right, I'm not particularly creative. Then have a look in the church and see, what kind of people have you got in the church who are really creative and got ideas. It just takes one really good idea to make something excellent, and so leaders spend time looking, and God provides people, doesn't he, in his church? That's the reality. People say to me, oh, there's not a church administrator, there's not someone like you, or there's not this, not that, and you go, actually there might be. And if there's not, then let's pray and ask God to provide someone.
And it's knowing where you're at, I think, we can compare and we can be like, oh, we don't have that person, but actually the person might be in your congregation right now, but they may not do exactly the same as another church. Yes. I think it's not comparing to other places, it's knowing where you're at and actually what do you need at that time. You may need them to do, so for example, it might be just the graphics for a certain thing. It might not be video, it might not be all of the other stuff, it might just be some graphics. And so it's knowing where you're at rather than thinking we've got to do it all in one go.
That's good.
That's really good. Thank you so much for being here.
Always a pleasure.
I do appreciate it, and it's great to have you both on. I've loved having Gaz. People love listening to Gaz.
It's always good to come.
Mate, you might.
I won't be invited back next time, will I? It's I'll be looking after the kids, and she'll come. And
Lois will come.
Maybe you should interview the kids and see what really happens.
Well, we'll have that barbecue with the kids.
Yes, come on.
Sounds good.
We'd love that. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast. Hope you've enjoyed our conversation discussion about excellence in church, creativity, and different gifts that are on display and different ideas. Lois has got loads. Lois is going to let us see some of these templates. If you've got anything else to add to the church office, add it. We'd love it.
Sure, there's plenty.
Thank you for joining us. And if you've got any questions or any topics that you think, do you know what would be really good to hear about this aspect of church life, then please get in contact on questions@thechurchoffice.co.uk. But from us, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.